systems a natural balance. The ways that living things in an ecosystem relate to one another creates a natural balance. Most of the relationships in an ecosystem involve food. Other interactions are affected by human activity in positive and negative ways. Members of an ecosystem often compete for food. Competition happens when two or more species depend on the same food source or any limited resource. For example, on Sable Island off the coast of Nova Scotia, gray seals and harbor seals compete for the same food, figure 5.5. Both types of seals feed on tiny fish called sand lances. Scientists have discovered that gray seals dig into the ocean floor to find the fish hiding there. Harbor seals follow schools of sand lances and eat fish that wander away from the school. The gray seals are thriving, but the harbor seal population has been decreasing. The gray seals seem to have a more successful feeding behavior, and they are winning the competition. Sharks in Sable Island's offshore waters are known to eat seals. Animals that hunt and feed on other animals are called predators. In this example, the sharks are predators and the seals are prey. The sharks like to eat both kinds of seals, but harbor seals are smaller and easier to catch. Predator-prey relationships help keep a natural balance in an ecosystem. There are many cases where two different types of living things live closely together for periods of long time. This type of interaction is called symbiosis. In symbiosis, at least one member always benefits from the interaction. A remora is a type of small fish that follows sharks around and eats their scraps. The remora benefits from the shark, but the shark does not benefit from the remora. Populations. A population is a group of individuals of the same species living in a given area. A population of clover plants in a tray consists of the total number of plants in that tray. A population of clover plants in a field consists of the total number of plants in that field. Populations change as old members die and new members are born. In nature, populations often stay about the same size from year to year. Other times, populations grow or decline very fast. The change in size of a population over time is called the growth rate. Growth rates can be positive, negative, or neutral. The graph below shows the growth rate of a human population. What can you tell about the human population growth from this graph? To grow, a population needs energy, nutrients, and space. Energy and nutrients both come from food. Therefore, population growth is limited by the amount of food available. Population growth is also limited by space. Different organisms require different amounts of space in which to live. Any of these variables are limited, a population will not continue to grow. Species. The interactions among organisms in an ecosystem create a natural balance in their populations. This balance is partly maintained by the predator-prey relationships and competition for food. Sometimes a species that doesn't belong finds its way into a new area. Such a species is often called an invasive species. A species is regarded as invasive if it has been introduced to a region where it did not previously occur naturally. Invasive species, if successful, can upset the interactions that create the natural balance. The European green crab is a native of the coasts of Europe and North Africa, figure 5.7. Green crabs have been found on both the east and west coasts of the United States. Scientists think they are transported in cargo ships carrying seawater from other regions. The arrival of the green crab in a new area is cause for concern. These crabs could change an ecosystem they enter. In 1950, they were blamed for the destruction of soft-shell clam populations in Maine. Green crabs eat many types of organisms, including clams, mussels, and the young of other crab species. Studies have shown that the green crab is much quicker and a better predator than most other crabs. How do you think the presence of green crabs might affect other types of organisms? One way is through increased competition among different species for food. When introduced into a new area, the green crab competes for the native species of crabs for the same food. If the green crab is more successful, it may take food away from the native crab species. This may cause negative population growth for the native species. Human activities affect ecosystems in both positive and negative ways. One negative effect is pollution. A pollutant is something that causes harm to a living thing. Three things often determine how harmful a pollutant is. 1. The pollutant's ability to cause harm. 2. The amount of pollutant in the air, water, or soil. 3. How long the pollutant stays in the air, water, or soil. Sulfur dioxide is a chemical that is a good example of a pollutant, figure 5.8. When sulfur dioxide is present in large amounts in the air, it can make breathing difficult even for healthy people. It also reacts with water in the atmosphere to make acid rain. Acid rain can kill trees and harm life in lakes, ponds, and streams. Sulfur dioxide enters the air from fossil fuel power plants, automobiles, and even volcanoes. Mercury is an element that can be found naturally in an ecosystem. Human activities, like industry, also cause the release of mercury into the environment. It is taken in by the members of an ecosystem and it builds up in their bodies. When the amount of mercury in a living organism gets high enough, the animal or plant can be harmed or may even die. Mercury is commonly found in fish. Because mercury is stored up in the fatty tissues of a fish over its entire lifetime, the level of mercury in a fish may be thousands of times higher than in the level of mercury in the water. This process is known as biomagnification and is explained on the next page. In the food chain, human activities sometimes create toxic pollutants or toxins. High concentrations of toxins may impact living things. Toxins can cause slowed growth, decreased population, and even death. When toxins enter ecosystems, they spread out and become less concentrated. Some toxins end up in lakes and oceans, figure 5.9. Food chains concentrate some toxic pollutants like mercury into the tissue of animals. To understand how this happens, let's look at a marine food chain. Toxins are concentrated at each link in a food chain. As producers make food, they absorb molecules of toxins from the water. Next, herbivores eat large numbers of producers. Toxins like mercury dissolve fat in fat, not water. They are stored in the fatty tissues of the herbivores and are not passed out of their bodies. When carnivores eat many herbivores, they accumulate even higher levels of toxins in their tissues. Secondary carnivores who prey on other carnivores can accumulate dangerous levels of toxins. These toxins can sometimes be passed on to their young. Figure 5.10 shows how the amount of toxin can multiply as it travels up a food chain. Even if you live far inland, you are part of a freshwater ecosystem. We depend on fresh water for drinking, for staying clean, and for farming and industry. Humans can't live apart from a freshwater ecosystem. Because clean water is so important to our daily lives, we must protect the health of a freshwater ecosystem. Governments and civic groups test the quality of surface water regularly. They use the data, the quality of the water. To learn about water quality of a pond, river, or lake, you would first make careful observations. You might ask, what does the pond water look like or smell like? What animals and plants are living in the pond water? Where is the pond located? Are there houses or farms nearby? Is the pond near a factory? Common tests used to see if surface water is healthy are described below. The water temperature of a pond is measured 3 or 4 inches below the surface of the water. The higher the water temperature, the less dissolved oxygen there may be in the water. Dissolved oxygen is needed by most organisms living in the pond. The turbidity test measures the cloudiness of the water. If the water is cloudy due to suspended sediment, sunlight is blocked and pond plants do not grow well. This can be harmful because pond plants are needed as food for other living things in the pond. A Secchi disc provides an easy way to measure turbidity, figure 5.12. The disc is lowered into the water until the black and white panels are no longer visible to a person looking in the water. The rope holding the disc is marked at 1 meter and half-meter intervals to measure the depth of the disc when it disappears from view underwater. Water quality tests. Oxygen enters fresh water from the air and the photosynthesis of aquatic plants and microscopic organisms called phytoplankton. Water quality is higher when dissolved oxygen levels are high. Water samples for a dissolved oxygen test should be taken away from the water's edge and about 3 inches below the surface. The biological oxygen demand test is a 2-part test. 2 water samples are taken at the same time. Dissolved oxygen is measured in the first sample right away. The second sample is shielded from light and measured at a later time. The amount of oxygen in the first and second samples is compared to find out how much oxygen was used by bacteria as they decompose organic material. Nitrates and phosphates are chemicals that can enter ponds that are near farms. Fertilized lawns or septic tanks, excess nitrates or phosphates can cause large growths of algae. a type of rootless, stemless plant commonly found in ponds. Decomposers found on the decaying algae and use up valuable oxygen. Feed on decaying algae and use up valuable oxygen. This endangers the health of the pond ecosystem. The pH scale ranges from 0 to 14, figure 513. Pure water is pH 7, neutral. Surface water ranges from about 6.5 to 8.5. Most organisms in an aquatic ecosystem function best when the water pH is about 7. Many life processes do not function well when pH is too high or low. For example, fish have trouble reproducing when pH of water is too low. Water quality tests help make sure that water we need stays clean and safe. When test results show that a body of water is unhealthy, government and civic groups can work together to find the causes and decide how to make the aquatic ecosystem healthy again. Answer these questions.